Well, welcome to Between the Shadows. This is Kristen.
This is Kara.
Welcome back. We have been away for a long time, but we are back with a very, very special episode for the anniversary of House of Dark Shadows, which came out 53 years ago. And tonight we are joined by our very good friend, Jule T Saynes, who runs the Resident of Collinwood podcast on for YouTube. And we've had many, many discussions on Resident of Collinwood. And Jule is one of our biggest, if not our biggest supporter. Jule, welcome finally to Between the Shadows.
Welcome.
First of all, thank you for both having me on. It's an honor.
Yes. So first and foremost, I know we already know the answer, but for viewers' sake and everything, tell us what got you into Dark Shadows.
Well, before I tell you what got me into Dark Shadows, long time ago when I was a little kid, my mother, who owned a video store, decided to show me and my brother John Carpenter's Halloween when I was 8 at the time, my brother was 9. And the reason she did this was simple. And she told us that she goes, I'll show it to you. That way, you know what it is. It's fiction. It's a movie. Yes, there are movies that are based on real life. Can you give us some examples? Not right now. Talk to me tomorrow. That was that conversation when we got shown John Carpenter's Halloween. And I had that entire year, I had a crash course of horror from Hellraiser to The Howling to American Werewolf in London, the original Night of the Living Dead, because my mother told me I was not allowed to watch anything that was remaining until I watched the original. And that was her rules. And I followed her rules to the letter of the law, or at least to her law.
Yes.
And then, she left, after a while, she left me to myself. And when you leave a young child to themselves, they're going to watch whatever the hell they want. And I did. I mean, I can't say that my mom was hard on me about what I watched. Literally, my mom walked in on a scene where this girl in Vampire Hunter D had her shirt torn off, and she goes, "What the hell are you watching now?" It's like it's an anime. And then one day, I was home. I think it was summer, and the Sci-Fi Channel was fairly new. They weren't old, and they were buying up a lot of old shows. And one day I'm just happen, and there's this black and white picture. I'm like, okay. And I had seen Twilight Zone. I didn't think this was Twilight Zone. I see this train coming at me. I'm a sucker for trains, so I'm hooked.
Yes.
As a kid, when I was my biggest thing is trains. I loved trains as a young boy. And so this train's barreling down me. Then I see this beautiful woman who's now talking, who's doing this voiceover. Her name was Victoria Winters.
Ooh.
And from then on, I was hooked. I mean, Dark Shadows, I got to watch Dark Shadows from the beginning, thank God.
Yes.
And I think mostly that would be that's why I recommend people watch Dark Shadows the way I did. Just watch it from the beginning and you'll fall in love with it for the most part. Yeah. I fell in love with it. I was hooked. I kept coming back every day from 8 to 11, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Sci-Fi Channel. And so I kept coming back until there was no more. And I'm like, why is there no more? During that time, before it ended, I was not at Barnabas yet. I was telling my mom, I said, I'm watching the show Dark Shadows. And she goes, did the vampire show up yet? I'm like, what?
You blew it.
And she goes, oh, you'll see. I'm like, well, there's this lady who's there. She can summon fire. She's like a phoenix. And my mom's like, yeah, you're getting there. Keep going. So my mom knew what a lot. Again, my grandfather was an old movie nut too. He got me into westerns. So, and him and my mother agitated each other with what they would show me.
Yes.
So they were like, my mother shows me horror. My grandfather shows me the movie Nevada Smith. No, that wasn't the first Western he showed me. And in Nevada Smith, there's a scene where this girl gets stripped down and you see her bare back and there's a knife being taken across her back.
Oh my gosh.
And my mother and grandmother walks in and my grandmother's like, Ray, what are you showing that young man? Well, at least I didn't show him John Carpenter's Halloween. Right, right at my mother. And my mother's like, yes, but you show him Nevada Smith, Father. I've seen Nevada Smith. And I'm watching Nevada, and then I was watching Nevada Smith with Steve McQueen. So I got into horror first through my mother, and my grandfather showed me old movies, and then I watched Dark Shadows after I got into horror, because I was, when you're a kid, you'll watch anything once you're shown it. The scariest thing I ever saw, to me, when I was a young boy, was Ricky Tikki Taffy.
Truth.
Like the snakes talking scared the shit out of me. Like, what the hell? But when I watched Dark Shadows, it didn't necessarily scare me. It intrigued me.
Yes.
But I could see the horror moments in it, and they were really well done. And then after the series ended, I said, okay, I want to watch the movies. Because I knew there were movies. I had heard there were movies during my watching the series. I knew there were two. Really? There's only two? Then I watched House of Dark Shadows on Turner Classic Movies one day. I'm like, I see why this is so different.
Yes.
And even though it's filmed during when the series is going on, everybody points out about how you see the MGM, the lion roaring, and then you hear the music, and you see the big house. Yes, you hear the music, but what don't you hear? The voiceover. You don't hear a voiceover.
Yes.
That's sort of the beautiful entry of House of Dark Shadows.
Yeah. I thoroughly agree. And that is the perfect segue into what we're discussing tonight. House of Dark Shadows.
That's a great intro, Jule.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to let you do this from now on. So, I mean, first things first, what did you think of House of Dark Shadows, just overall?
Overall, I think it's a fun watch. It's really entertaining. It does not, you could, even if you didn't watch the series, you could watch, even if you didn't watch the series, you could watch this and not be lost. But if you happen to watch the series and you watched this, you got right away, this was not the series. And I enjoyed the film for what it is. It's pure fun, and it's a story that's not going to lose the audience. So yes, I give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it.
That's fair.
I could agree with that. Yes. Yeah. Definitely. So, I know that you watch the show, so you know that the way that we do this on Between the Shadows is we take it piece by piece and we just speculate and comment the crap out of it. Dissect. So, I mean, opening scene, like you said, was the MGM lion, and then the theme music comes on, and the first person we see is, I guess, is Maggie. She's looking for David, and can't find him, and here you had seen her, where David is hanging in the closet and freaks the crap out of Maggie, which we didn't see, but we know that it was there originally. Yeah. So, the next scene is the classic Dark Shadows scene of Willie trying to look for the jewels, but it's different. It's different this time. Yeah. And he's not, he hasn't vetted this the way he has in the show. It's just, okay, I found these papers, I'm going to go digging tonight. But like in the show, I feel like Willie vetted this heist for a long time, but it opens up and he finds he takes the clues and he finds the mausoleum and goes in. So Jule, your thoughts?
I think John Carlin should have been one of the original members of Ocean's 11. Like, seriously, like, he's that cool. I love the fact that they do it that differently, because
yes,
Willie Loomis is not your thief. He's not a career criminal the way he was in the series. He actually is a goddamn handyman. And who better than to awaken a vampire and unleash him from the tomb than a disgruntled Collins employee?
True.
Right.
True.
Well, and like even like compared with the movie and the show, like I think Willie's biggest motivation being like a crooked crook, was Jason McGuire.
Yeah.
And without Jason, this is what we got in the movie, and I liked that better.
Agreed. He wasn't under the influence of Jason not paying him, you
Yeah.
know. And when am I going to get mine? When do I get to move into the big house? Well, I'm just going to steal the jewels instead.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree. So
Yeah.
So okay. So stealing a page out of your book, because we've discussed this many times. There is the question of who in House of Dark Shadows cursed Barnabas. Who cursed him? So, I mean, we know in the show it was Angelique, cut and dry, we know. But in the movie, it is not so cut and dry. All we get is a they. And so, what are your thoughts on it, Jule?
Here's the thing. This is tricky because I can only interpret Josette because we don't get much. The only thing we are told is it happened right as they were going to get married.
Right.
So I find it very strange, that little tale they tell, because it's like, okay, so this was now here's the thing. That's the similarity of the series, because now Barnabas wasn't cursed when they were going to get married. He was cursed way later, after he marries Angelique in the series. But when Josette when things get messed up in the series is when they're getting ready to get married, and Angelique pins that pin on Josette and she runs away.
Right.
So in the movie, they change it to the degree of, no, when they were about to get married, Barnabas got cursed. Okay. So my guess is Josette, she did not, this was not the Joshua Collins. My educated guess is that the Joshua Collins from the series was not the Joshua Collins from the movie.
Agreed.
And Naomi Collins was probably similar. She was probably even as more kind in the movie. That his parents were probably kind; they weren't cruel. And especially Joshua. Joshua was a dick in the series, but in the movie, my guess is in the movie he was kind. Again, we don't see him though. In all fairness, so I'm assuming a lot, and I want to make that very clear.
That's what this is all about: to assume, to speculate. This is why we do this.
And
all you want.
As they're getting married, I think it was Natalie Dupre that cursed Barnabas.
I like that.
Now, in fairness, we don't hear about Natalie, but at the same time, I have to take somewhat from the series because Natalie was in the tarot cards. What if they change it and Natalie's this enchantress, or she's a witch herself?
Yes.
And she's the aunt of Josette, not the mother. And that's, again, maybe because Natalie didn't have any kids of her own, she never found love. She never had to give up her powers.
Right.
She was the witch, and her sister, found love in, in the Dupres, and got married, and had a daughter named Josette. Again, it's all speculative.
True. Very true.
Who do you two think?
I always had a sneaking suspicion it was one of the Dupres, and I think you're right about Natalie, and especially, even in this movie, because we hear nothing about her, I think it would be easy to speculate that she is a witch of some kind, an enchantress of some kind, because even in the show, she was able to psychically summon somebody to the old house through just a psychic connection, and she didn't know who it would be, but she knew that it would be a witch, a very powerful witch. So, I mean, Natalie Dupre is an excellent excellent guess.
I think the last time we discussed this, I mean, I think we were all kind of.
We were all going.
That was the most logical answer.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's how I was feeling as well.
Yeah.
But even like you said, if we're talking just House of Dark Shadows, she wasn't even mentioned.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't know about Natalie in the movie.
Right. We have a lot of prejudice watching the show before we watch the movie. But
I mean, it could be old tales of, it could have been the gypsies.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably my only another second guess.
Yeah, my other guess is the Leviathans,
yeah.
or Judah Dacre, from the beginning of time, because the Leviathans are supposed to be there since the beginning of time, and had a plan. And again, I'm not going to go into this because we've already talked about this, but that's why the grounds are cursed, and that's why all these bad things keep happening to the Collinses. And I don't know. I kind of think the Leviathans were my big guess as to who they were.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's all up for speculation.
It is definitely. So going from there, as far as like the characters go, who do you think was the most changed from the? I mean, who do you think was the most changed from the show to the movie?
For the most part, who was the most changed? I'm going to go right back to Willie, because when you look at the series, to me, Willie Loomis was the most. He grew up the most in the series.
Yes.
From what he was. Now he's the most changed in the movie. But if I had to, I'm going to pick two. There's a second one. And I got to, as much as I want to, again, I'm going to pick Barnabas sort of by default, because this is not the Barnabas from the series.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And that actually leads me into my next question. When we talked about this, because the last time we talked about this with you on Resident of Collinwood, we talked with Patrick McRae also, and he mentioned that in the series, Barnabas kind of took the mantle of caring for his family, of being kind of the protector kind of, and making sure everybody was fine. But in the movie, that was not the case at all. Like Barnabas was not there to take care of his family, and he harmed, members of his family. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
What's the most shocking thing is how honed in, not just Barnabas is on Josette, that he's so honed in that when Carolyn comes in, this is after he bites Carolyn. When Carolyn comes into the room and he's showing Willie, he's explaining Willie what happened with him and Josette. And Carolyn comes in, and Willie Loomis before that just said, "Now that's Maggie Evans, not Josette. You can't do that to her." And Carolyn walks in. She makes this big tirade because, again, Barnabas bit her. And that's another thing too. Before I finish that, Barnabas attacks Carolyn in her room, not in the old house of the cellar.
Right.
He bites her because why? She's gonna go to England that summer, next summer, I believe. And if she goes, she's gonna find out his secret anyway. So he bites her. And I love how they do it. That she's getting ready, then she goes. And then you see him standing in the window and he comes right at her. And I love how it's sort of like you're watching Carolyn's point of view, first person, and he's coming at her with the mouth open and the fangs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. And when Carolyn comes into the room with the music box, sorry, I went off on a tangent adventure there.
Good, I love it.
and this time he bites her so bad because he's so fixated on Josette and so angry that she came in that room. He just completely is draining the blood out of her. I love the walk to the great house of Collinwood in the movie where Willie is walking Carolyn back and he's like trying to dab the blood, like clean it up. I love John Carlin in that scene. He just is so good. And he goes, I gotta go. You can make it. You'll be all right. I'm thinking, dude, this woman just lost pretty much 98% of her blood. Does it look like she's gonna be okay?
Oh my God.
I know.
But she did make it through the front door.
Yes, she did.
She did make it.
Barely. But me, Carolyn always seemed like even from the beginning, she was, when Barnabas came to introduce himself to the family, she was kind of looking at him and, his answers are kind of weird. And then she seeks him out. Yeah. And it's like, why didn't Barnabas come to us the minute he got into town, Willie? What do you know? And then just her demeanor says that she suspected Barnabas of this attack. And I wonder if, the London thing, I totally didn't even put that together, but I wonder if this was part of that too, Yeah. But
well, and again, Stokes question. He was like, "Oh, really? What part of England?"
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Cromwell's.
He's like, just testing him.
Yeah.
It was like, but man.
You know why she made it through the front door? Because she's a Collins, goddammit.
That's right. That's right.
Free pass.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
So kind of in that same area of the movie where Carolyn's getting ready, they flash to the party. And in this series, in those first few episodes, we see the townsfolk, Maggie especially, something's going on in that dirty, dusty old house, and I don't want any part of it, and it's creepy, and I don't want to do it. But at the party, this woman, Mrs. Pettibone, comes through the door, and Roger's like, "Oh, it's so good to see you." She's like, "Oh, believe me, only a party at Collinwood would have gotten me out of my house today." And I'm like, okay, there's another difference. So,
like, what is this, Gatsby's house?
Yeah, Gatsby's house or something. So,
yeah, this is not the Roger Collins from the series. He did not want people coming into his house, parading all over the place.
Right.
In the movie, he wants to have a party. He's ready. Yeah. It's like, did Hugh Hefner show up in this building? Like, Jesus Christ.
Right.
And it's great to see, though. Like, it's great to see that difference that they play it off in the movie, that he's not this shrewd customer. He's very much relaxed. Now, he's still somewhat strict with David, but it's not as bad as it was in the series at all. And I like that. I love the way Lewis Edmonds portrays Roger in this movie, because it's so different.
He seemed worthy of
the Collins name.
Of the Collins name, and upholding it. You're right. Like, he wasn't such a tight, hard nose. Sorry, but for real, like, he was just more refined and carried himself better, more confident.
For me, Roger Collins seemed like he was Roger Collins. He was
like, that's the Roger Collins I always pictured.
Not the Roger Collins who took his inheritance, blew it, married a woman to keep her quiet, and then has this big old secret.
He's doing all these shenanigans. He seems like he's been responsible his whole life. This Roger Collins.
Yeah, he seems like he seems like the Roger Collins of the 1990s series.
Yeah,
sort of.
That too.
Yeah. I mean, minus the screwing Maggie part, but we're not talking about that. So
that was a little weird.
It was a little weird, but no, I agree. I think Roger is with Willie and with Barnabas. I think he's one of the most changed characters in the movie, because we don't have any of Roger's backstory. We don't have any of Elizabeth's backstory. We don't have their secrets and their skeletons in the closet. They're just there being this matriarch and patriarch of the house, you know. And it doesn't even seem like Elizabeth is the matriarch of the house. It seems like her and Roger are
co-parenting this property.
Our co-owners.
I could say the same thing for Carolyn too. I was going to say when we were talking about different characters, but she seemed to keep that mature Carolyn that we got later on, like after Burke and after Buzz, and after we seemed to come into that kind of Carolyn, which I liked.
Who's ready to be married off. She's doing exactly what her mother wants. She's getting ready to be married off.
Had a steady relationship.
Well, I mean, look, you're living at the Lyndhurst estate. You're going to get married to a character played by Don Briscoe. Who wouldn't want to get married to Don Briscoe? I mean, for God's sakes, the guy is handsome as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that they make Carolyn this grown-up woman in this movie.
So, I agree. I agree. I love that, because especially when when you watch the series from the beginning and you watch how childish she is, and how mean she is to Joe, because he's mommy's choice, and she doesn't want to marry mommy's choice. She wants to be a party girl. I have to bring this up because I think it's so funny. Because Nancy Barrett, in one of her interviews, she's like, I always pick a song when I play a character, and my song for Carolyn was "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," and that's exactly what Carolyn was in the show.
But wouldn't be so carefree,
but she was so mature, so grown up in the movie, and I appreciated that. I really loved that.
I'm putting that song on my timeline, and I'm tagging you two in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, that is so perfect. Girls Just Want to Have Fun for Carolyn, and the because the first scene you see her, she's in the blue whale, I'm like, that is so perfect, but not the Carolyn from House of Dark Shadows.
And I kind of think that's kind of the soap opera-y thing about the show as opposed to the movie. And I think they did a really good job. Like with the movie, they're trying to show you a story that you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Like they're just trying to start it.
The names and relationships are the same, but the story has changed.
All right, Law and Order.
I'm sorry.
No,
Dragnet.
Or Dragnet. but yeah, like, what was I saying? I think that's like the soap opera feel, like. And I kind of like that because you see the progression of Carolyn, because she was 17, 18.
Yeah.
Still a kid.
Agreed.
And then you get to see her growing, the maturity. I think that's just kind of like the story a soap opera gets to tell and drag on.
I agree.
But I liked her in the movie. We just got flat out mature Carolyn.
She was like 25, pushing 30 Carolyn in the movie, and I kind of love that.
Yeah.
But I'm just, Joel, any other thoughts? I'm sorry, we just kind of
no. I
the shadows long. So.
I love the fact that we go from instead of just an enclosed studio and a bunch of sets, we get actual location.
Yes.
Now in the series we did get some location at Seaview. They did shoot shots at Seaview in the beginning, and that was great atmosphere, but we do lose that after a while. With the movie, you don't lose that at all.
No.
Yeah.
You get Lyndhurst Estate, you get on location. It really feels like Dark Shadows has gone to the movies here, and it has.
Yeah.
It really, I agree.
Yeah.
I
mean, the budget was amazing for them. Like, because that's how you always picture Dark Shadows, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the huge house, the dark grounds, in town, like.
Maggie walking up to the old house in the movie, it was like enormous. She's like a little bug standing next to that house. And I love that. I'm like, yes, that is what the old house is supposed to be.
Like you actually get the visual of like how long the driveway is to actually get up to the house from the road. Like
I was just saying earlier when I was doing my homework for this, it's like we've seen it a billion times, but you still want to watch it so it's fresh in your head when you talk about it. But it was like, why did Daphne Budd park so far from the main entrance?
Out of the gate.
It's like you could have driven right up to the house. I'm sure Elizabeth wouldn't have minded, If she'd have pulled up to the house, she probably wouldn't have been attacked. Yeah.
But I'll just say this: I'm writing a story called "The Adventures of Jasper Mitchell," and there's going to be a chapter where he goes to Seaview, but it's not a Dark Shadows thing. He gets invited by a friend of his to come spend Christmas with her, but because there's something going on with her parents, I won't spoil it though.
Okay. Don't. Do you remember the first time we chatted and I was still in the middle of the Heirs of Collinwood? Do you remember that?
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I can't let you forget.
See, like this is like when I'm watching a movie and Julie's watching it with me. She's like, "Hey, what happens? What happens?" I'm like, "Watch the movie."
I know you know.
Yeah, that's exactly her. I know you know what happens in it. Like when I haven't seen something, you know what I get? Hey, what happens? I'm like,
it's like I'm watching the same thing you are. Sis. Oh my God.
Julie has no patience. But go ahead.
I love it.
I get it.
Like, get to the point.
I get it. Which it's got to be hard for her to watch Dark Shadows because, I mean, we know how long and drawn out this is.
Because my wife's too busy staring at Jonathan Frid. So she's good there. She once said, "Hey, if I lived in the '60s, I'd have been Jonathan Frid." I'm like, "What?" Like,
oh, girl, that is so funny.
Like my wife just says she'll say the randomest shit, and it's just like, really?
I love it. I love it.
What?
It's okay. I'm probably guilty of it too.
Like House is even worse because she told me, she goes, if I'd have been Kathleen Lee Scott's character, I'd have just went with Barnabas. I'd have said, screw Roger Davis's character, get out of here, bub. I'm like, well,
like peace out, Jeff.
Like it doesn't work that way.
No, I know.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Clark. That's my other thing of this movie. That's my biggest issue of this movie, and I love Roger Davis to death, is the way they write Jeff Clark.
Yeah. I agree.
It was like kind of replacing Joe Haskell.
Yeah, but
that away for me.
But they completely changed Jeff Clark's character, because I feel like in the show Jeff Clark had so much more going on than the knight in shining armor that they tried to portray him as in the movie. And he wasn't even that so much until the end. You know, up until that, he was just Maggie's boyfriend.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And he was an obstacle for Barnabas, and Barnabas was able to deal with him like that. Since, you know, on the contrary, I've done something for him, which we don't really know what he did, but we know that Jeff was in Boston while Barnabas was taking a dig at Maggie. So I totally agree with you, because there was so much more depth to Jeff Clark, and I feel the same way about Professor Stokes.
Now here's the question: who was your least disappointment that got turned into a vampire in the movie? Who were you least disappointed got turned?
It's a hard choice.
Mine would be Stokes.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Well, if I didn't want anybody to fall a victim to it, it would be Stokes. That's what I meant by my question.
Okay.
Well, like, you know, because so many people got turned. Roger and Jeff and Stokes, Carolyn.
No, for
Who's your lead? Like, who would you have changed to not get turned in the movie?
Okay, I understand. I mean, Carolyn was pretty shocking, I think, like as a vampire. But then when Stokes did it, I felt like that was more of a shock, because Carolyn was sticking her nose in where it didn't belong. It was bound to happen. She was going to die either way, and you know. But then Stokes turning around and getting bit and turned. I'm like, whoa, hold on, what?
Like it just came out of nowhere for me in the movie. It's like, okay.
But what about you, Joel?
Stokes getting turned is so shocking.
It is.
Because here's the thing, Stokes is playing a way more intense version of his character in the series. Mm-hmm. He's more playing Van Helsing in this movie than he is in the literal series. So you're sort of waiting for the showdown between Van Helsing and Barnabas, or Dracula and Barnabas, but Professor Stokes and Barnabas. And I think Dan Curtis, Sam Hall writes the script. Curtis read it, and I think Curtis realized, if I have Professor Stokes go against Barnabas, this is just going to be another Dracula movie.
Yeah, I understand. That's very fair.
Even with the plot.
Yeah.
Like, as good as the characters are in the movie, and they're really good and interesting for the most part, I think if you have Stokes go against Barnabas, you're just going to have Dracula and Van Helsing. I don't think he wanted that, so how? What can I do to shock the audience? Oh, I know!
That is very true.
And he did that throughout the whole series with everything he pulled from, like Richard Dorian Gray and,
Ernest Screw.
And, Frankenstein. Like he put his own spin on it and tried to do it as different as he could in his own taste. I always appreciate that.
I will die on that hill, like defending the writers. I will, because yes, it was taken out of these different things.
Yeah,
but nobody did it like Dark Shadows. Nobody did.
It was in a way you've never seen it done before.
Yeah,
but I don't know. But I do know.
That's
what I said. No, I'm joking.
I think by the end of this, like when the 80s hit, I think somewhere in between, Quentin Collins got a hold of the Hellraiser puzzle box somehow. Oh, that's just me.
You know what? I will stand by that with you.
That would be cool to see in the new series, because
I'm serious.
That does bring me to another question. I'm jumping around. I've got a list, but I'm going to jump around a little bit. But is there a character in the show that you would have liked to have seen in the movie from the show that you would have liked to have seen in the movie?
Yes, if they would have did this movie differently and did the origin story, but they weren't going to do that. I would have loved to have had, instead of them being cousins, make Quentin and Barnabas brothers.
Oh yes. Like, okay.
Yeah.
In a way where have Joshua be the father, Joshua and Naomi be the mother and father of 3 kids. Barnabas and Quentin are brothers. They're only a year apart, and have Sarah be the youngest, be the little girl.
Right.
That'd be so perfect. It would be.
Yeah.
Only if they would have did that for this movie, I would have loved to see David Selby in this movie. Now they could have just put Selby in this movie for a role.
But that goes for Laura Parker as well. But they knew they did wrong. That's why they gave us Night of Dark Shadows.
Well, too, remember, David Selby is helping babysit the audience in the series.
Yes.
That's why he's not in this too.
Exactly.
And so, by the way, so is Laura Parker.
Laura Parker. Yep, you're right. Yeah. But then vice versa when it's their turn to do their movie, you know. So where we're stopped in the story, where we kind of stopped was, you know, Carolyn's been turned into a vampire. I want to talk about, in my opinion, what is like one of the most creepiest scenes in all the movie, which is when Carolyn is dead and David's at the swimming pool, grieving in his own way, and he comes into contact with Carolyn after the fact.
Right.
What are your thoughts, Jule?
Still to this day, when I watch this movie, and I watched it today, it gives me goosebumps because it's scary as shit. Like, you know what's coming, but the way they do it. Here's David, who's, you know, a bit of a morbid kid in this movie.
Yeah.
But he's not quite the David he is from the series. Yes. And he's mourning Carolyn, like he said in his own way. He gets, now the unconscious scene, it's a bit cheesy, but I'll live with it. You know, he wakes up, it's dark enough. He hears Carolyn, it's like, and at first I think David thinks, did I hit my head too hard, you know?
Right.
But when he's walking, he's like, you're dead. You're the terror of it in his voice, because it's the realization, and he's running away is so terrifying.
Agreed. Oof.
And Nancy Barrett in that white gown is terrifying.
Yeah, that it is a terrifying.
So
scene.
Well done.
Like when what's his face, her boyfriend, she's standing up in the loft of that barn or something, and she's flowing in the night in that top window, and he's looking up at her. I'm like, that is one of the scariest things to look upon. Like, it is. Like,
now that we're there, I have a question, because I was thinking about asking it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So when they're up in the barn and the police are looking for them, you know, and they're real quiet so they don't find them on the first try, and she looks up and keeps biting, and then he takes his arm and swipes the bowl,
flops down.
Do you think he did that on purpose, or do you think that was just, you know, to somebody please save me? Or do you think that it was just a passing?
Yeah, I think she's draining him of so much blood that he loses his arm control.
Yeah, okay.
And because remember, when they come at her, he's trying to block them.
That's true.
He's trying to
that's
save her.
true.
Yeah.
So, and that's another cool thing too. When you see them try to come at her, you sort of get this another first person perspective. So you're sort of the cameraman are making you feel like you're Carolyn.
Agreed.
About to be staked.
I love it. I love it. I mean, pretty advanced for the time, but I mean, excellent work, I thought. But you know, just being able to see all them with the crosses in front of you, and then you see Elliot take out the stake. Oh, yeah. I've been asking all the questions. Do you have one?
I've had one that's been rolling around in my mind. If Dan Curtis were still here today, What would you like to see? What project? What story would you like to see him do? I mean, it could. I would say, I guess, just like a remake of something, because originals are.
I know they're a thing of the past anymore.
Like if he took something, in the world of remakes today, if he took something, what would you think he could really?
I would like either Kolchak comes to Collinwood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or again, because I secretly think Chris Carter, the creator of the X-Files, took a lot from Dark Shadows too. Yeah. So I would definitely like to see Mulder and Scully come to Collinwood.
That would beat all, wouldn't it? Yeah. It really would.
But from a Dan Curtis, what would Dan Curtis do? Or I would like to see him direct. Here's a guy who didn't want to do horror anymore.
Yeah.
Now again, Avengers have been done. I don't know how much Dan Curtis knew about The Shadow, but I would trust Dan Curtis to do The Shadow. So The Shadow.
Absolutely. I would like to see anybody except for Tim Burton, because I'm still mad at him 11 years later. I would like to see somebody take on The Shadow. And I would, because I don't think anybody has.
It always comes to
unless I'm wrong, Will. I mean, you're the authority, so.
Well, there was a serial in the 40s with Victor Jory, which is really good.
Right.
Victor Jory more plays the accurate pulp version of The Shadow. There was a movie in 1994, The Shadow, starring Alec Baldwin. You can go find it. It's really, really good. I own the Blu-ray, where they combine the radio and the pulp. Because in the radio, the Shadow was invisible. Right. So they make him invisible in the movie. Now, there's a scene in the movie where he rescues Dr. Roy 10 on the Brooklyn Bridge. In the pulp, in the very first Shadow pulp called The Living Shadow, he doesn't rescue Dr. Roy 10 from a bunch of thugs. He rescues Harry Vincent from committing suicide. Right. So there's that. So the movie's combining, and again, I think Alec Baldwin did a good job. I love Margot Lane in that movie. My God, first of all, she's a knockout. Two, the fact that they give her psychic abilities made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And actually, that's funny, because when Margot Lane was not created by the person who created it. It wasn't created by Walter B. Gibson. It was created for the radio. Specifically, Margot Lane was created by the radio. And initially, they wanted to have her know who that he was the Shadow. And she does in the radio. Now she finds it out in the movie because of her psychic ability. They don't add this in the radio, but initially they couldn't figure out how to make that work in the radio. They never reveal this in the radio, but Walter B. Gibson did give them the original idea, which I think was passed down to eventually the movie, where he said to them, make her telepathic, make her a psychic.
Yeah.
That's how she knows, and which was smart.
Yeah.
I just have to say, and this is a complete sidebar, complete side note, 100% off topic, but the only reason I'm even interested in The Shadow now is because of you, Jule, so thank you. It's like the only reason now.
I will send you two audios.
Please.
When we're done here. They're very, very good.
I honestly, I know that we're kind of getting teased with a new series, but I really think I can't say his name. Can you say this name right? Because I can't.
Oh, Guillermo del Toro
should do a Dark Shadows movie.
Yeah.
I had it right here, and I'm like, I cannot pronounce that name.
He was really close to doing a Silent Hill game with Norman Reedus, right?
Really? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Really close. And here's how close. A trailer came out for it, and it got canceled.
Ah. Okay.
I'll send you the trailer of the game that no longer exists. It didn't get made, but my God, the trailer had so much potential.
That's wow. Wow.
But going back to Dan Curtis, like I would have loved to have seen him. Do you remember that Edgar Allan Poe movie with John Cusack?
Yes.
I would have loved to have seen Dan Curtis do something as like an Edgar Allan Poe.
He would have been excellent as Edgar Allan Poe, something.
Dude, but I mean, John Cusack killed it as Edgar Allan Poe. Like, as far as acting, he killed it.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see Dan Curtis work on that, man. Like,
okay. Well, on these lines, now that we're getting teased with a new show, Joel, what do you think? How do you think that Dan Curtis, if he would even say yes to it, would influence this new show coming out?
Yeah.
I think if he were alive, he would more want to be in the background than anything else.
Yeah.
Especially if he was enamored with the script as his daughters are.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I've heard too, that both Dan's daughters love the script. So I think Dan himself would be more of a, I'll help you be behind the scenes camera. But I also think where Dan would really help is from a financial getting it on TV.
For sure.
Because if Dan Curtis were still alive and kicking, he'd have enough connection. Because remember, he helped get the new Kolchak reboot on TV, and he was in the process of, they had filmed the Dark Shadows pilot, and he was trying to get that picked up. It didn't, unfortunately. So
I'm still, even after watching the pilot, I'm still sad that that's not a thing, because I think they could have gone places with that if they'd have cut down on the sex a little. Because that first episode was so much sex. But yeah, I'm sorry, that was a sidebar too.
We were watching an 80s slasher. No, we weren't. But
yes. Let's see. So Carolyn's a vampire. This is what we do. We dissect it. But let's see. Carolyn's a vampire. She's dead now. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And from there, we really don't see any more of Daphne Budd. We don't really see much of Elizabeth. I mean, we get pieces of Roger here and there, but we don't get a big piece of Roger until the end when he's a vampire.
Yeah.
So, Julia does the thing where she does in the series where she attempts to cure him.
Yeah.
And it seems to really be working, like, I think, better than it did in the series.
Yeah.
And I don't know. What do you think, Jule?
Well, remember to compare it to the series a bit. In the series, the reason the serum doesn't work is because it's all Barnabas's fault. He wants it sped up. He wants it rushed.
Yeah.
In the series. And then when she decides, she warns him. She goes, if I speed this up, it could have a disastrous effect. I'll just do it. Barnabas had the slogan before Nike did. Just do it.
Yeah. That pissed me off.
Yeah. And so she does. She complies with him. And we get the AARP version of Barnabas in the series. And
true.
With the movie, you ladies did a great job of talking about how in the series when Julia when did we realize Julia was in love with Barnabas? Bite me, right? Well, in the movie, Julia is very much in love with Barnabas. And she wants to marry. She wants to be the one that he chooses. And when he comes to the realization of her feelings, he's like, "I'm sorry, I had no idea. I consider us great friends, And where in the series that works, in the movie it's not going to, because here's this woman who wants you for herself.
Right.
And so you have, you don't want to choose me? Hell have no fury like a woman scorned.
Right.
At least that's how she feels, and she's not wrong.
Right.
But she does a lethal injection that makes him old. And we get a much even more, if you thought Barnabas was old in the series, he's much more older here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As my buddy Mark Gilman said, creepy old man Barnabas, and he is.
Truth.
Mm-hmm.
I love how he's coming through the secret passage to bite Carolyn, and when he bites her, I love how they do the change back where he's bitter, and they just do this little flash.
Yeah.
Boom! You see Jonathan's face turn young again.
Still with the blood dripping down in his nice little white suit. Yes, right. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, here's a question just off the top of my head. So Julia cured him, wanted him for herself.
Yeah.
Was Julia the logical choice? Because she's the one who gave him his life back. Was she the logical choice?
Sure, she's
the love interest, you know?
She's a logical choice, but his choice in the movie, especially the movie, because there's no Angelique.
Sure.
We have it's Josette or bust for Barnabas.
Josette or bust. Okay.
And especially for the movie. I mean, in the movie, he actually, because he gets cured and he's walking around during the daylight in the movie, he takes her on dates. I mean, he's pretty much bought off Jeff Clark at this point. Jeff Clark's in Boston doing God knows what, like you said.
Jeff Clark with signs.
It's like, I'm screaming at Jeff. Jeff, get your ass back here and fight for your woman, dude.
Right. And what's happening behind your back.
Right. Well, here's his biggest sin, and it is at the party when they have the party and Barnabas is still a vampire when they're having that ball. Jeff Clark sees Barnabas hit literally on Maggie. I'm thinking, look, I grew up around a bunch of machismo teenage guys. Okay, I had a brother, I had 3 cousins. They were all dudes. There were very few woman cousins in my family, and there were like 2. That's it at the time. And if any one of them would have saw what Jeff Clark saw, they would go over and be throwing punches.
Honestly,
and I'm not saying Jeff Clark should have threw a punch, but he should have at least said, "Hey, what are you doing with my girlfriend over here?"
Excuse me. I know. He was kind of a weenie about it. He was just like, he tossed him a dirty look, and do you 2 know each other? Yes, we do. And that's it. It's like, aren't you going to do anything else? It's like, no wonder she fell over Barnabas, because it's like, what was Jeff doing? Nothing.
It's like, when Barnabas got the cure for the most part during the day, it's like, I didn't feel sorry for Jeff Clark. No, I felt sorry for Julia Hoffman. Yeah. But I didn't feel one bit damn sorry for Jeff Clark.
That's the thing. I mean, Jeff Clark was completely unrelatable in the movie, I thought. Like, completely unrelatable. He's just a jock, you know? But Maggie was wooed by Barnabas, and rightfully so. He took her out. He paid for her food. He wined and dined her. Of course he was wooed, you know? And the logical next step would have been for him to ask her to marry him. That was the logical choice, all while Jeff is, you know, making his money because of Barnabas, you know? But I don't know. So I got a bone to pick about Jeff Clark in the movie, because I love Jeff Clark in the series. But
when they had Jeff Clark in Boston, they should have filmed some extra footage of him. Okay, he's in Boston, and he goes to this job interview, and he gets it. But then he stops and goes, "This guy is literally pushing me out the way." And we get a bit of Burt Devlin here. He picks up the phone, he dials London, and he's trying to find out, like, okay, did this guy come from there?
Oh man,
yeah, that could have been his saving grace.
Totally agreed. Yeah, they could have done that. You know, Jeff Clark was that smart, and I feel like Professor Stokes, they dumbed him down just a bit for this movie. Yeah. But in the end, he tries to be the hero. But the hero of this movie is not Jeff Clark, y'all. It's Willie Loomis.
Yeah. Who better?
Exactly. I think it's poetic that Willie Loomis is the unsung hero. I really do.
When I love that in the series, when Barnabas asked that of, like, he was, I can't do it, Barnabas. I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, to the end, he was just faithful. Loyal. Yeah. I mean, which
is why Willie's the hero of this movie.
Yeah.
Because as loyal as Willie was, he was like, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And, you know, even while he's like badly injured, badly hurt, he was the one who ultimately took Barnabas out. I mean, Jeff gave the last plunge, and, you know, Willie did the heavy lifting, though. Yeah. He did. Jule, thoughts on that?
I like the fact that Willie Loomis, because you do see when Willie goes to Maggie early on in the movie, he's trying to warn her about Barnabas, and he's been cured at this point, and this is the effect of the cure. He's breaking free of Barnabas's control.
Yes,
which is great acting by John Carlin.
Absolutely.
And I love how Catherine Lee Scott's like, Willie, like what are you doing? Because he pushes David away.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so there's that great conversation between them, and then when he learns about it, Willie gets the cane beating up a lifetime, which is great. I need more Barnabas hitting Willie with the cane in this movie. I really do. But I look, when it was on, when I went and rented it on VHS before I bought it on DVD, I would play that part in slow motion. Okay. And I enjoyed it for what it is, but I like the fact that Willie redeems himself totally.
100%.
By finally going, enough's enough. He doesn't say it, he just does it. And Jeff Clark gets the assist. If I could have went and picked the hero of this movie, Willie would have still got an assist, but in a different way. You have just heard him talking. He'd have been in this dark space, and you're not sure who he's talking to. And he just says, that's what he is. He's a vampire. Because again, he's broken from Barnabas's. You've got to do something about it before it's too late. Because I don't feel this is going to end well for any of us. Mm-hmm. You're the only person here I can turn to anymore. And it's Jerry Lacey's Reverend Trask in this.
Oh, nah.
You know,
yes.
If this is a movie, why not flip it? A Trask is your hero.
Holy crap! That'd be so cool.
I know. I know.
And maybe, I mean, playing on that, I mean, Trask was the Reverend at Carolyn's funeral. Who's to say he wasn't Reverend Trask or a descendant of Reverend Trask?
Well, his name was Trask.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Was it? I didn't look.
Am I crazy?
No. You might absolutely be right, actually. But I mean, even being a descendant of Trask, that totally would have been his legacy, and Willie could have gone running to him and been like, "Look, I love that, Jule. That is amazing. I that would have been the perfect. Screw Jeff Clark." Weenie? No. I love that. That's perfect. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry.
No. I'm just best.
I know. I'm just sitting here being blown away. So
I was like, well, we're at the end of the movie. So.
I know we're at the end. So I mean, Jule, what else you got?
I would have loved to have seen Roger Davis preparing a little more for the vampire, preparing for more of a showdown. Maybe, sharpening some stakes, sharpening some bows and arrows, sort of getting the crosses, the garlic. You're confronting a vampire here. This is essentially confronting. This is worse than confronting Dracula because you're confronting Barnabas, and we know he's a badass.
Totally.
And again, Jonathan Frid takes control. I love the fact every wedding needs a witness, and you'll be witness to this. It's the best line in the movie, and Frid has it.
Yeah.
I do have one thing, and it's a little thing, but Willie running to Maggie and saying that he's worried about her, she should get out of town. Why didn't Willie go running to Jeff instead? But like, do you know what your woman's up to? Instead of running, because Maggie wouldn't have listened, especially if she's being wooed by Barnabas. A woman in love never listens. They never listen. We don't listen. So why didn't he go running to Jeff instead?
I think because Jeff was still in Boston. 2, I think Jeff's return is because of Willie, because who else does Willie tell? He tells Professor Stokes.
Professor Stokes, yeah.
Because that's why Barnabas hollers for Julia, because Stokes knows.
Okay.
And I think that's why when we see the fact that Maggie is ill, as she's been bitten. Who's back? Jeff Clark.
Right.
Now Jeff is back to hear this. Yeah, dude, rip off the T-shirt and show the S in the middle. Be Superman now. Now now at the 11th hour, you're gonna be Superman, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
Right.
But I think if he would have been again, and I don't fault Roger Davis. He was doing a job.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think the writers, they want to go the most least likely person to kill Barnabas.
Yeah.
And again, if you're looking for that, Jeff Clark's your guy. Yeah.
Jeff Clark's the man. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
You're absolutely right.
But I think what really helps Jeff and really Roger Davis too is the fact that they did so much with Willie turning him back to his humane side that it helped. It makes Jeff Clark look a little better than what he should.
Agreed. Yeah. But without Willie, Jeff would have just been a weenie. I'm just saying.
Jeff would have been a stain on Barnabas's floor. That's what.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree. He would have been another casualty. He would have been collateral damage, I think. So.
I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
Right on.
Okay. So you can cast a modern day Barnabas in a movie for Dark Shadows. Who you cast?
Damn you, Jule. No.
I know. My wife says the same thing.
Honestly, like movie or show today, I don't care. I'll stand by it. Matt Smith needs to be Barnabas. For me, he just does.
It's such a good choice. And Jule, I'm gonna defer to you while I'm thinking on this. I'm gonna have an answer, damn it, by the time you come back.
I would choose the same person I would cast to play the Shadow, Adam Driver.
Dang.
Friggin'
what's his name?
Adam Driver. I love it.
Kylo Ren. Yeah.
Oh, Barnabas.
Shimon.
Shut up.
It's a tough one. It's not an easy decision. Like if it was my decision, I'd have nightmares about it.
I know.
But it's not an easy one.
I'm trying because it is such a large. The shoes are so big.
Yeah.
The shoes are so big, and it's so hard to choose somebody. I like Matt Smith and I like Adam Driver. Who else is there that could play Barnabas?
You shouldn't have let me and Tara go first.
I know. Forget that. Oh, and his name is totally escaping me. If he were a little bit younger, and his name was escaping me. Oh my gosh. He played Voldemort. Somebody help me out.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody help me out. But if he were younger, I would have loved to have seen him as Barnabas.
Yeah, that is a good choice.
Why is his name escaping me? What's his name, bro? Not cool.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
The guy who plays Voldemort in the Harry Potter movie. And what is his name? Raphael. Ed Raphael?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
What's his name? Raphael. That's what his name is.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you. That was long and convoluted, but there we are.
That is a good choice. Actually.
Honestly, I mean, for Jonathan Fritz to have been as old as he was, I think that Ian would have been a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were going 1966 style.
And before Matt Smith gets too much older.
Yeah.
Dude, Matt Smith may just me, and I'm not that old, dang it. Yes, he is. I'm sure he is.
She would not keep his man.
I love Matt Smith. If I wasn't married, let me tell you. No. I'm teasing.
You're pulling a Julie right there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even care. I'm secure in my marriage. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh. That's funny. Yeah, those are all really good choices though. For real.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's 40. He's older than me.
Like I said before he gets any older.
See, he would be the same. He would be around the same age as Jonathan Frid.
Yeah.
Matt Smith would be a good choice.
I'm sorry, but how can you get past those cheekbones?
Yeah.
Those are some Barnabas cheekbones.
But he would need some excellent players because Matt Smith, I believe, could make an excellent Barnabas, but he would need some excellent players to complement his Barnabas.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyway.
I think you both made great picks. And I think that's the thing. Like, with Fred did not get Barnabas until he was older. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. And it's hard to believe he doesn't, when you watch him, he doesn't look that old.
No, he doesn't.
No.
And he plays the part so well that you wouldn't even ask. You wouldn't even know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. On that note, does anybody have anything else they want to add?
What did you think of the makeup job by Dick Smith in the movie?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
A lot. Obviously, there was a bigger budget involved here, but I thought it was excellent. Honestly, I did.
Yeah.
I think the way that Barnabas was portrayed was accurate.
Yeah.
Was way more accurate than it was in the series. He's a 200-and-something-year-old man, and he looked the part.
Yeah.
He really did.
There's something about that black and white in the show that makes everything in its own way seem so much more dynamic in black and white.
Agreed.
But, like, to see it in color, like I said about the grounds, like this is how I always imagined it. Like, he looks right. Like,
yeah,
no issues.
I have a question. What are you into doing next weekend?
Next weekend.
It's October 7th. I don't have anything. I know that. Really, it's on you. What are you doing?
I think I'm free. Yeah, as far as I know. If I'm not, I'll let you know. But I'm pretty sure I'm free.
Do you guys want to talk about the revival a bit?
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't.
Yes, I do.
We haven't talked about that much. Not much.
Yes, I do.
That would be fun.
So next weekend on my channel, you two can come on and talk about the revival with me.
Yes. I am there. Even if she's not there, you can have me instead.
We'll all pair up at whatever con she's at. It's like, pick up the phone, damn it. Pick up the phone.
I'm sorry.
I know, God. Oh my God. Put it in your calendar. You'll forget.
I'm free. There's nothing in my calendar. I'm free. I was just looking.
People ask, why is your phone ringing? This damn podcaster keeps calling me.
I gotta change my number. No, Jule, only for you.
Them damn Pennsylvanians, they don't leave nobody alone.
Right.
I'm not from Colorado, thank you very much. We just moved here. Oh my God, Jule, it's been excellent. It's been so fun. Thanks for we finally have Jule on the show. I'm so excited about that.
Thank you both for having me. It was truly an honor.
I want to have you back as soon as possible. So,
yes.
Well, as our sign off goes, just remember to keep it between us and the shadows.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.